In this video, I will demonstrate how to cut a linoleum block. I will be cutting with a speedball linoleum cutter. These are a nice, inexpensive option that can achieve pretty detailed lines. You can change out the nib by unscrewing the end. The curved end of the nib fits in between the ball and the little movable C-shaped piece of metal. My only complaint with these tools is that sometimes they can be very difficult to change the nibs out on. In the back of your tool is a little compartment with all the extra nibs. I also keep a piece of paper with my name and contact information in case it gets left somewhere, which can happen time to time in a communal studio where all the tools look identical. There are two main types of nibs, the V and the U. Looking at them directly on, they each look like the letter they are named for. Here you can see all the types of marks that the various nibs make. The sixth nib causes the most confusion. Some people use it for outlining areas they plan to cut, and others use it to remove chatter. Chatter is the unintentional bits of linoleum that poke up when you've cut an open area. To hold the lino cutter, place the pommel in the palm of your hand. Pinch the handle between your forefinger and thumb. Post up on your pinky finger so that the tool is held at an angle. Use the forefinger on your other hand to give you more control and act as the emergency brake if you accidentally overshoot. Always, always, always cut away from your hand. These tools can cut quite deep. I like to begin by doing the detail work first. I start with my smallest V-nib and cut around the edges of shapes. I will cut out the larger areas later with a broader tool. Turn the plate as you go so that you are always cutting away from yourself. When you cut the sides of the linoleum, it's a good idea to set something underneath the block to protect the surface you're working on. This could be a cutting mat or just a scrap of cardboard like I'm using. It's difficult to prevent the tool from overshooting at the edge now and then, and it will cut your tabletop. Before you begin cutting, it's important to hone your tools. Stop cutting to hone again every 20 minutes or so. Dull tools are the #1 cause of injury because people push too hard to try and force the blade through the material, only to have it shoot forward suddenly and cut them. Fresh linoleum should cut easily with sharp tools. The blade should move through it smoothly. The two main causes for material that is difficult to cut is either dull tools or old linoleum. Linoleum is made of wood flour, cork, and linseed oil. The linseed oil evaporates over time, leaving the block brittle and hard. You can soften linoleum by rubbing the surface with a few drops of linseed oil on a rag, and then heating it with a hairdryer so it soaks in. Do not use a heat gun. Applying linseed oil should be done prior to transferring a drawing because it may remove your marks. If you do not have linseed oil, the hairdryer will temporarily soften the surface to make cutting easier. This can be done while cutting the block. Beware, though, if the linoleum becomes too warm, the edges of your cuts can become ragged and the material itself may get crumbly. Heating the block with sunlight is one of the best ways to gradually warm linoleum. As you are cutting, don't submerge the entire V or U of the tool under the linoleum. The two top peaks should stay above the surface. Move the tool in a straight, smooth manner. Do not use a digging, rocking motion because this causes the edges of your cuts to be ragged and torn. So this plate is ready to be printed. This is about how deep your cuts should be. If they're too shallow, they will fill in with ink when you're printing. Next, I will cut a plate with ink wash on it. Notice how much easier it is to see the areas that have been removed. It's easy to see the difference in the marks made by the small V-nib and the wide U-nib. The V is best for fine detail work, and the large U is nice for clearing out big areas. To find line weights in between these two, lay multiple thin lines side by side to build up to the width you want. The ink wash gives a good idea of how the print will look. What is black will print black, and what is cut away will be the color of your paper. If you do a lot of lino cuts, it's very handy to have two tools so that you can easily switch back and forth without the effort of changing the nib. This video has been sped up, with large chunks of the process cut out. Cutting these two plates back to back took about 2.5 hours. Now the plate is ready to print.